What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here, and this is going to be a new album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the latest album from one of the most prolific, biggest selling and iconic solo artists of all time, Van Morrison, entitled What's It Gonna Take? This is his 43rd studio solo album, being the follow-up to an album of his called Latest Record Project Volume 1, which I still brutally dislike to this day, which was 2 hours, 28 tracks of a huge dumpster wasteland of an album, not only onto his own stance about COVID-19 and the pandemic, but the album was a hugely broken and long-winded, repetitive bore to the minimal amount of anything worthwhile of originality. However, on this record here, almost 80 minutes of this album, 15 tracks, this is basically Van Morrison continuing once again to express what he believes is right and to still divide many other people to this direction in his solo career, which to me is absolutely a very big disappointing to later on be a big aggravation, because this is not Van Morrison that I would personally like to think and remember for. And yes, I know writing political songs can be very attraction driven into what he or she believes, but the worst thing about this record, like what I had expressed on his last album, these behaviors of lyrics from the last record were at one of his worst aspects as a lyricist, and what the turmoil that he decides to dive in with throughout his more than 50-year running solo career. On the other hand though, this album does not only mention about a bit of the COVID-19, but lyrically here, Van Morrison decides to go all ballistic again into now referencing things about Northern Ireland's Prime Minister, labeling him dangerous, hence the opening song of this album, Dangerous, which was basically an attack that Van Morrison did receive from the Prime Minister about his bad reputation on his COVID-19 songs that he did release back in 2020. And throughout the whole majority of this album, lyric after lyric after lyric, this is nothing but, without question, in my opinion, the worst behavior of anything to deal with any lyrics whatsoever on this record, because Van here spreads his own aggression on blaming the British government, to referencing the lockdown restrictions on almost every single track. And there were some points to the record where I was just bursting out laughing as I was looking into the lyrics, because this is just not only aggressive behavior, but the way they sound do come off as absolutely cringeworthy still. But the whole purpose of this record is, what I would say, is just, it's just a sequel with political lyrics. I know they do stir a lot of reactions, but the biggest problem that I did have from the direction that he is currently in is that these words, these views, are so inconsistent, and whether you will accept his views or not, what I want to hear on a Van Morrison album is anything original into something heartfelt and expressive, lyrics like what he's done on many albums. That's what makes him distinctive. But when he goes into the angry boomer and reactions, these lyrics are so mundane and absolutely pitiful. I will say that despite a lot of these atrocious lyrics, the musicianship here, thankfully, is way much more approachable. I still do give a lot of credit to the entire backing band who worked with Van Morrison in this record. And what is the biggest improvement on this record is that there's a lot of oomph into the musicianship. There's a lot of style. There's a lot of tightness. There's a lot of rhythm. There's a lot of that versatile and terrific set of performances, especially on the rich and soothing backing vocal harmonies to the soulful, bluesy, and quite an electric style into what the rest of the band did achieve. And they worked very, very well with this record. And even when they were just commanding each other back and forth and to make something slick and as precise as possible, what is also a top-notch part about the record is the production. And I think it's just as good, like what anything Van Morrison did on production, because I know that he's been producing a lot of his albums, but the sound quality on this record is fantastic. There's a lot on that touching sounds to the saxophones, to pianos, everything worthwhile. Now, I will say, because of the lyrics, again, on this record, you can believe what you want to believe. Coming from my negativity, a lot onto what I think on this album is just basically my personal opinion. And that is not coming from me being so-called sensitive. You can have an opinion, and with my opinion on his last album and on this, the worst in anything that has to have any appeal on what Van Morrison has been prolific about in any shapes and sizes into what he has done in many of his albums throughout his career. So if you're going to come out at me and to think that my opinion is wrong, I really don't care. I can say that COVID-19 is still spreading, and with so many of these people to think that it is not a thing and to be blaming the British government and to even subsequently think that anybody who's not on Van Morrison's side is just completely idiotic and disrespectful, yet alone that there are fans who are against what he's done in his newer path as a solo artist. So all I will say is, in my words, this is one of the worst records of the year, because this is not Van Morrison that I would like to personally think about, as I said before, and this is just booming after booming after booming, continuing on and on about this current situation, yet they are sucking out a distinction mark on one of the things that I liked about this album that makes this unbearable and at some points just completely unlistenable, especially on some of these really atrocious tracks. Like, sometimes it's just blah blah blah, what's it gonna take, fighting back is the new normal, I ain't no celebrity, stage name, and the whole repetition on these songs at some points do drag on to just extend the length of the material for the sake of it. Yeah, I still really am against anything that has been told before, and now it's spreading. This is not one of the things that I would personally think that this is at all a remarkable, what a terrible follow-up into what could have been something better and moved on from the aftermath of what he said before. Very depressing move, and a subsequent tiring listening once more. That's personally all I would like to say about What's It Gonna Take by Van Morrison. I don't know what you're going to think about my opinion or this album, but please put them in the comments below. Like I said, it's an opinion, not a fact. Please do not take what I say in this review way too seriously, like many people would do over something that I want to share my views on anything on music. I'm going to give this record personally not the same rating as Latest Record Project Volume 1, but I just can't fulfill anything but not a higher rating. A 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10. Mostly on the positives because of musicianship, production, and the sound of the album. But the rest of it, nah. Nothing. Nothing at all. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.